Hey everyone, guess what? We've been doing the Culture Study podcast for almost exactly a year. That means that if you were one of our initial subscribers, if you're one of the people who heard the news that we were going to do a podcast and you were like, yes, absolutely, I only need to hear like one episode, no episodes, I'm here, your subscription is going to renew soon. We are so grateful for you. You have made the show possible, sustainable. You've allowed us to go in all sorts of surprising and interesting directions over the course of the past year. And we want to keep doing it. And we can only do that with your continued support. So, depending on how your settings are, you might get an email that tells you that your subscription is renewing. You might have it on auto renew. You might check your credit card to make sure it's renewing. It's still up to date on its expiration date. But we need your subscriptions in order to keep making this show. You make it possible. So, if you're not already a subscriber, this is the time to join. If you are already a subscriber, again, we're so grateful for you, and we cannot wait to plan this coming year alongside you. If you had to give someone a syllabus to fully understand the work of Nicole Kidman, what are 3 to 5 texts that would be on that syllabus?
Not Moulin Rouge.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I don't like it.
Oh, I
it's
love
doing
it.
too much. It's so bloated. It's so bloated.
Oh, yeah. But also, I think that it needs to be on there to understand kind of her wackiness.
Yeah. This is the thing. She's wacky, and she feels at her core like a musical theater girly.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think for me, the biggest through line with Nicole Kidman's career is just her work ethic. She's never not working. I'd say Eyes Wide Shut. I'd say The Hours. I'd say Big Little Lies.
Yep.
And I want something bad in there. So what's the one with, what did I want to say? Hugh Hefner. Hugh Grant. What's that one?
Hugh Grant? Who is she? Where? Oh, Hugh
She's
Jackman?
No, Hugh Grant and Nicole Kidman did a show together. The
She's
Undoing.
Oh, right. Right.
Yeah. It was horrible, but you have to see that to know her full.
Wasn't that pandemic era? Am I misremembering?
Yeah.
There were so many limited series that came out during the pandemic that blend together.
And half of them starred her.
This is the Culture Study Podcast, and I'm Anne Helen Peterson.
And I'm Sam Sanders, podcaster and big fan of Anne Helen Peterson.
Can you tell us about your new podcast?
Yeah, so longtime listeners have been hearing me make a show called Vibe Check with my dear friends Saeed Jones and Zach Stafford for quite a while. But in early October, I launched a new entertainment and culture interview show in partnership with KCRW, and it's called The Sam Sanders Show. Every week, we are on the radio, on podcast feeds, and on YouTube, full video. And so far, I've interviewed the likes of Joel Kim Booster, Sashir Zameda, climate scientist Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson. This week, I'm talking with the 2 stars of the FX hit show English Teacher. I really like it. It's really fun. Oh, also Monet Exchange, also Roy Wood Jr. It's fun. I've been doing interviews for a long time, but doing them all in person in front of cameras, it's a whole different vibe. It's a whole different vibe.
I was gonna say this whole new world of essentially, Trevor Noah's podcast is like this too, where you are doing an interview the way that old school interviews, like television interviews, while also trying to think about how does this work without the video too. You have to be catering to these 2 different audiences, which I think is really interesting.
It is. And it's I realize the hardest part is the first 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Because what YouTube wants in the first 30 seconds is not what a radio listener wants in the first 30 seconds. So now I write 3 intros a week, and I read 1 in front of the guest with a teleprompter. We're doing teleprompter too. It's a whole new world. But I like it. It's a fun challenge. And now I can say I can do video and I can read teleprompter.
How do you decide what to wear?
Oh, girl. I need to decide to stop buying clothes. I've been buying wardrobe, and I'm like, it's a write-off. It's a write-off. And it's like,
It is a write-off. It is
it's
a write-off.
a write-off. But like, wow. Our set's really fun and festive. It's a blue cloud sky, lots of green plants, colorful chairs. So I'm trying to go big, bold, colorful, geometric shapes. Like, I love shirt jackets
Yes.
that have things on them that make me feel like a kindergarten teacher. That's my whole big vibe right now. Like, I got a really cute one that has a cactus on one side of the chest and a sun on the other. I love it.
I just bought a shacket and used that word to describe it to a friend. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking
It's
about?
not a fun word, but it works.
It's the future.
Yeah.
It is.
It is the future.
It is the shacket. Okay, so we are very excited to talk all things Nicole Kidman. And so back to this syllabus question. I would add either Days of Thunder or Far and Away to get a sense of why she and Tom Cruise ended up together and how people felt about her. Like, the foundation of her star was very much like just another like beautiful blockbuster co-star in the early 90s. And then I would also add To Die For, which came out in 1995. It's a Gus Van Sant film. And she plays like... It's a crazy film, but also I think was the first film that suggested to people that like, oh, she's an actress, right? And she's going to surprise us, and she does over the course of her career. She is surprising again and again and again and again.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then it's like she'll do the surprise and everyone's like, that's not going to work. And then before you know it, it does. Like, she was Lucille Ball. And everyone's like, why? And then she got an Oscar nomination. Yeah. She's not effing around.
An Emmy nomination.
Oh, sorry. Emmy nomination. Emmy nomination.
But she can pull off.
No, it was an Oscar nomination.
Really?
She was Lucille Ball in Aaron Sorkin's biographical drama Being the Ricardos. Wikipedia says it got her 4th Academy Award nomination for Best Actress.
That was a movie? This is the thing.
Everything's a movie these days.
Everything is so muddled. I'm like, was that a movie? Was that a limited series? Was that on Netflix?
I do a podcast on video. Everything is blended. It's all blended.
So... I think we also should, at the beginning, kind of put some of our, like, positionality up front. Like, what is your overall feeling about Nicole Kidman?
You know, I was trying to think about her and what she represents in a larger and wider context. And all that I could come up with that helped me treat what she's doing kind of with any modicum of respect was just to tell myself, she's woman Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage is always working to the point where you think he owes somebody money.
But he does owe people money, though.
Right? Like, he has gambling debt. He has gambling debt.
No, and like he overspent on all these different like wild acquisitions.
Yeah.
Whereas I think, Nicole Kidman is doing just fine.
She's doing just fine.
She's incredibly wealthy. Keith Urban also doing just fine. Like they have a ton of money.
Totally. But like in the same way that like nothing Nicolas Cage does, no matter how bad it is, will make me think less of him as an actor.
Yeah.
Nothing Nicole Kidman does that's horrible will undo the hours, will undo the amazing performances. Like my respect for her never diminishes, even though these roles are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. And the other thing I just want to say is that we got clusters of questions. We got so many questions. And they really were all around, why does she work like she has gambling debt? Another one, and we'll get to this, is about her wigs. And that is also to do with her appearance. And I think that like we should also declare here that it's really difficult to talk about women and aging in Hollywood in a way that feels right. Like, I think most of us feel like, what other people want to do with their bodies is their business to some extent. But at the same time, what she has done with her face also affects the way that she acts on screen. Right?
And it affects what people watching her think they need to do to their faces as they age.
Yes.
Like she is, if not a role model, a possibility model.
Yes.
And she expands the Overton window of what we think we can do with our faces.
Right.
And I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah. And we'll get to that question too. We have a really an interesting way of thinking about that. So
Yeah.
we're going to jump into the questions. The first one comes from Elizabeth and is a good way to kind of get at the whole everything about her.
Okay.
This might be a overly basic question, but I find myself confused by the turn that Nicole Kidman's career has taken lately. Given her recent roles in that bizarre-looking movie with Zac Efron and also The Perfect Couple, I found myself legitimately surprised when I remembered that she won an Oscar for playing Virginia Woolf in The Hour years ago. Have her career choices always been a little all over the place and I didn't notice? Or does this say something about where Kidman is in her career now? Or something else entirely about actresses getting older, gaining more producing or career power?
Oh, there's so many places to go with this. I think that we don't know what to do with actors who actually really love to work.
It's true. It's true. We want these superstar movie actors to feel mysterious and like they only come out of their hole when it's time to get the Oscar nomination.
Yeah.
And what if Nicole Kidman is just like, I'm a union employee, baby. I'm just going to work. Like, I'm SAG. I'm working, you know?
Yeah.
I also wonder, and I wonder this a lot, I think something happened during COVID. A lot of really big stars stop letting their publicists and teams run shit, and now they run their own shit, and you can tell by how unhinged celebrities' Instagram accounts have gotten. Like a few weeks ago, I saw Sarah Paulson post one of those, I do not give Meta permission to use AI to take my likeness. Like one of those bullshit little things that you post that your grandma posts.
Like
Sarah Paulson and other celebrities posted it, which reveals to me that like no one lets their publicist run shit anymore, and no one lets their team be in charge. So it might be a thing where it's like Nicole Kidman is just saying, I'm in charge of my career and it's North Star and I'll do what I want. And like, there's no one on her team that says, pump the brakes.
So Nicole Kidman is 57 years old. And I think she's at this really fascinating point age-wise. And you can see this in a lot of her films where she has younger male co-stars and romantic relationships where I think she understands like, I can push some buttons here. And people still want me to do this because they're fascinated by what happens when you see an older woman with a younger man on screen. Mm-hmm. And so I think she's taking advantage of that interest. She also has like incredible access to any role that involves like a rich white lady being challenged in her power.
Totally.
Right? Like,
totally.
And that's what The Perfect Couple
with
is.
Secrets. Like,
yes.
She always has secrets.
Always secrets. Always secrets.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would add is that a lot of younger stars, okay, there's two options I think you can take as a star in Hollywood, right? As you get to this age. And we'll talk about this a little bit with like thinking about Reese Witherspoon, who has really diversified. Like a lot of stars as they age in Hollywood, they're like, okay, I got to start my production company. I got to do
that.
Yep, like I gotta start a baby line like Jessica Alba.
Yeah.
And
Kristen Bell and Dak Shepard sell diapers.
Yes. And also have this whole like podcast empire, right?
It's wild to me, yeah.
And I think what Nicole Kidman has done is like, I actually just like to work.
And I like that better. I like that better because I feel like when these celebrities do the like diversification, and I want to say Ryan Reynolds is the most egregious of it, like the Mint Mobile ads, owning the soccer team. It all feels like a money grab. It feels like a money grab, especially when they have like a tequila line. I'm just like, stop.
The tequila line.
I hate it. Like I love Nicole Kidman no matter what because she has no fucking tequila line.
And I do think like there is a fair criticism that Hollywood does not necessarily make roles for women this age where they can also be like interesting. But I think that's going away.
But they clearly do. She's getting all the roles.
She's getting all of them.
She's getting all the roles.
If Reese Witherspoon wants those roles, she can have them.
Yes.
And then the other thing is that younger stars often step back a little bit when they're having kids. And Nicole Kidman's kids that she has with Keith Urban are older now. So she's not like taking that step back. That's why she's working so much. She's like, there's roles, let's do it.
Yeah. It's also like, in what other industry do we ask someone who's at the top of their field why they work so much? Let's question the question.
Yeah, and we have to historicize this a little bit too, because classic Hollywood, if you were a star on contract, you were putting
going.
out
You
like
were going.
3 or 4 movies. And,
You were
and
going.
sometimes they were good. Sometimes they're what we remember. And sometimes, like Cary Grant put out so many stinkers. Katharine Hepburn, stinkers. You can still watch them because their star power is there.
Yeah.
And that's actually how I feel about a lot of the Nicole Kidman kind of like second tier stuff. Like I still want to watch her.
Even back in the day, like if you go and look at how many albums Aretha Franklin released,
Yes.
like 40 something. She was just always in the studio and she would sing anybody's song. She covered everybody's fucking song.
Yes.
She like, and it's just like we've gotten out of this mode where people just get to work. There's kind of this like erification of superstardom. Like you have to have an era now, and Beyonce's in this era, and Taylor's in that era, and this album is like a milestone and a seminal work. And it's like, what if it's just an album? You know?
Yeah.
Just an album.
Part of the question that we haven't attended to yet is, has her work always been this varied and weird, for lack of a better word? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you look back, like around the time she was doing the hours, she was also doing a bunch of weird stuff like Birth.
Which one was that?
Birth is the one where she gets in the tub with a 10-year-old. Like, I'm trying to remember the plot. Is like she's in love with someone who takes the form of a 10-year-old's body. And it was very controversial at the time, but she was like, it's a movie about love. And I say weird, like very affectionately, as in she's doing movies that are different, that are indie, that are not a big paycheck. She's doing it because she wants to work with various auteurs.
Yeah.
And then also doing like big blockbusters, because I think that also is fun.
Yeah, you gotta do it. Well, I also feel like, so much of what she's doing right now is just like rich white lady caught up in a murder plot, and also she has secrets. Some of that's her, and just some of that is just like where the industry is moving.
Yeah.
Like a lot of this is just like the White Lotus industrial complex.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the media that we're consuming right now, because there's so much of it, there's so much prestige TV that's just like rich white people behaving badly.
Yeah.
That's us wanting it. And there's a theory or a thesis somewhere in there about our reaction to late stage capitalism and income inequality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's not all Nicole Kidman.
No.
She didn't create this. You know what I'm saying? She's just a player in it.
She, like, I think she is embodying some of the conflicting ideas about wealth and whiteness and privilege.
Yes.
Like, that's in her star image right now.
Yeah. And it's and like emphasis on whiteness. Like
yes,
these shows by design are not meant to be too diverse because it complicates a lot if it is a racially diverse like cornucopia.
Yeah.
Because part of what you love about these shows is that you can hate them even more because they're rich and they're white. If they were rich and Latino, or rich and black, or rich and disabled, you'd be like, can I hate them this much?
Yeah,
but they're rich and they're pretty and they're white. Fuck them.
Yeah, it makes the melodrama much more straightforward. I am thinking about something like Big Little Lies. You have a character of color, usually a woman, but not always, who is present, if only to show like all of the various microaggressions that these horrible white people like.
Yeah.
Man, like towards Zoe Kravitz, it's like,
exactly.
Oh no, like
yeah. Like we are allowed to hate them more because these shows are as white as Nicole Kidman's skin.
Alabaster, I would say.
Alabaster.
I want to quickly go to like back to 2000. So she 2001, she's in The Others, which is one of my favorite Nicole Kidman movies. Have you ever seen it?
I don't think I have.
It is about, it's like a ghost story, and it's about living in the Channel Islands during World War II, and she thinks her house is haunted. It's so creepy. I love it.
I'm going to watch it.
So that's from 2001. Then she's in The Hours, right? And so many lauds for this movie, like incredible prestige. She wears like the prostheses on her nose, which is very famous. And then she's also being Virginia Woolf. I actually like, it's fine for me.
Yeah. I remember when the whole cast went on Oprah when they were campaigning. Such an emotional episode, and Oprah hammed it the hell up. Did Nicole Kidman wear the nose on Oprah?
No, she would not have.
I don't know why I want to imagine that. She didn't. But I remember that episode of Oprah being like, this is a big deal. This is a big deal.
Like, it's a classic example of the Oscars awarding pretty people for like pretending to be ugly.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. They love that. They love that.
And then after that, she's in Dogville, a Lars von Trier movie, which is a very experimental film. Like, there's no other way to talk about it.
Yeah.
The Human Stain it's an adaptation of a Philip Roth book with Anthony Hopkins, which like kind of disappeared, but it's an interesting movie. And then she's in Cold
she's
Mountain.
like almost a little bit black. Is that one? Is
yeah,
that the Human Stain?
someone in that movie is passing, and I can't remember who it is.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And then she's in Cold Mountain, which is like a giant prestige movie that, I really like. I think some people think it is doing too much and that she's doing too much and that Renee Zellweger is certainly doing too much in that movie. But yeah, so like and then she's in Birth, the movie where she gets in the bathtub with the 10-year-old. But like that's an example of how varied.
Wait, Jude Law was in Cold Mountain?
Yes, he's very hot.
Jude Law was in an American Civil War drama. Jude Law. I have to suspend disbelief. He's so British.
So there's Jude Law playing an American soldier, and then Nicole Kidman playing her love interest. I mean, it just gives you people often critique her accent, that she doesn't do an American accent well. And I think the way she does an American accent just signifies this like somehow like high posh. Do you know what I mean? Like American posh.
Oh, totally. She's also just doing at this point a Nicole Kidman accent.
Yes.
Like she has her own lane. It's her voice,
Which again, similar I think in some ways to like Cary Grant, where like Cary Grant's voice was neither here nor there. It was neither British nor American necessarily.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. These next two questions are about the middle of her career. The first one comes from Amar, and Melody's going to read it.
Is To Die For low-key the best thing Nicole Kidman has done? If not, what is?
So I feel like you're not going to argue for this since you haven't seen To Die For.
Yeah,
I think it's great. What do you think is low-key the best thing she's ever done?
Oh, man. I remember being really enthralled with the way she played Alexander Skarsgård's wife in Big Little Lies.
Yes.
And I remember there was this scene where they're going back and forth between violence and sex in their oversized rich person closet.
Yes.
And I was like, damn, they're both working.
Yeah.
They're both working. She, in the first season of that show, was the best. The second season was but she really did well in that first season. I really enjoyed it. There was a depth to that performance that was really cool.
I wrote about her after the episode where I think it's that episode, and also there's like a couple of moments in therapy where she is doing a ton of like quiet, like silent face acting. And there was this discourse on Twitter at that time that was like, oh my God, can you believe Nicole Kidman is a good actress? That was completely...
What?
Yeah, I know, right?
That's wild.
But I think Big Little Lies is one of my favorites.
It's good.
It's
so beautiful. It's just like beautiful to watch.
I love her in Moulin Rouge.
Okay. I
think she's so sad. Like this is the conversation at that time. Do you remember this? Yes. She and Tom Cruise had broken up, and it was spoken but unspoken that there had been like a pregnancy loss around that time. Maybe right before they got divorced, and so part of the conversation was like, she's so sad because Tom Cruise blindsided her and she lost a baby, and like this is her triumphant return. So I can't think of that movie without also thinking of like those conversations at that time.
Yeah.
So I love that, and I love the others, which we've talked about. I love her. Maybe I just really love Zac Efron and his tidy whities in The Paperboy, but I love her in The Paperboy. That's a fucked up movie that I really like.
Okay. Did you watch their newest one together?
I haven't. Have you seen it?
I have. It was one of those ones where I'm like, I will have this movie on while I spend 2 hours looking at houses on Zillow. It was a Zillow movie. And it worked fine as a Zillow movie. Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really like. I like her in Far and Away as well. All
Yeah.
of those to me are like movies where she's doing something very different from the other movies. And
Yeah.
but I do agree that like with this question asker that her best role is not the one that she's won the Oscar for, to my mind.
Agreed. I would also argue that like when she gets TV right, it's as good or even better than her in movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's good on TV.
Yeah. No, she's like, she could be a soap star. She has more charisma, I think, than a traditional soap star, but she could play that role.
Oh,
like
totally. Totally.
Okay. Another question. This has to do with some of what I referenced about the Tom Cruise breakup. So this comes from Allison.
How did Nicole Kidman end up with Tom Cruise in the first place? I'm asking as a young millennial who just cannot figure out their dynamics. What did they even talk about?
Yeah, this one's all you because I can't speak to it because it confuses me as well.
No.
It confuses me as well.
Tom Cruise used to be a normal. This is what people sort of normal. Like he used to be not Tom Cruise now. He's been involved in Scientology for a very long time, but Tom Cruise of like the 80s and early 90s. First of all, I think there was no bigger movie star on earth. Like he was impossible to turn away from.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get on a set with Tom Cruise, she was so young. She's in her early 20s.
Yeah.
And you're playing a doctor who falls in love with a NASCAR driver, which then becomes the top grossing film of the year, global sensation. And I'm sure there was like a fair amount of publicity encouragement there. And don't you think Tom Cruise, I mean, we saw like the really blown up version of this in his courting of Katie Holmes, but like.
He could be charming. I could see him being very charming.
But in like a way that would kind of make me a little bit nauseous. He'd be like, here's my candlelit dinner that I made for you on this hill. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like he would have the plane do a little smoke sign in the air being like, Nicole, date me. Like all that. He would do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, what did they talk about? I mean, what does anyone talk about when they're 22? I don't know.
Yeah. Also, once you have kids, you just talk about kids. And they had kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. They adopted 2 kids.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Also, there are so many marriages where the couples don't talk about anything, like
or talk to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. But I think that was like, it was a young marriage that it was his second marriage, but for her, she was very young, and it would be easy to be caught up in that romance. They really weren't married for that long.
How long was it?
Like, I think they got married in like...
It was 11 years.
Yeah,
That's forever in Hollywood.
I mean, but ultimately, like in the span... She's been married to Keith Urban, I think, for longer at this point.
See, that one's more confusing to me than her and Tom Cruise.
Oh, they're both Australian. They met at like a fancy Australian people party, and now they're just like, we're Australian together.
We're Australian. Wait, was she in the movie Australia?
Yes.
Oh, that one was so bad. Oh my God.
It was very, very bad.
And they wanted it to be a hit. They were pushing that thing, and it was just like,
it was a hit. It was
happen.
a global hit.
What?
Yes, because it was a musical that was released on Thanksgiving weekend with Nicole Kidman and Hugh Jackman. Yeah. Also, think about the Australian audience for a movie entitled Australia with 2 Australians.
Yeah, they're all going to see
directed by an Australian. Okay,
Miss
moving
Australia
back to
or nar.
back to the present. This is a little bit more on the recent roles. Hannah's going to ask us this question.
Why is Nicole Kidman always the actress cast as the character of an older white wealthy woman with a secret? There are so many talented actresses in that age range who could add a different flavor to that character trope, but I feel it's always Nicole. Is it the blonde hair, her specific wealth-looking beauty? What is it? By extension, is there a specific beauty expression that wealth enables that Nicole has? Why is she so good at looking comfortably rich, other than probably being that in real life?
So what do you think there? Like, part of it's her cheekbones, part of it's how regimented her body is and has always been, right? And I think that it resembles what a lot of really wealthy white women try to how they try to design their bodies, I would say.
I think these roles work for her because she has rich lady plastic surgery.
Yeah,
she has rich lady face.
Yeah.
And I think that had her face aged the way the rest of our faces did, she wouldn't look rich enough.
Yeah.
She looks so wealthy because the face is pulled like that.
Her best friend is Naomi Watts. Like, they were classmates. They've been best friends forever, which is why it's kind of weird that she stars in The Perfect Couple with Liev Schreiber, who is Naomi Watts' ex-husband.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm sure, I guess it's friendly.
We hope.
And Naomi Watts is now with Billy Crudup, happily married. I think, like, Naomi Watts even has not had the same work as Nicole Kidman.
Exactly.
And she looks different. If she were to play this role, I think she would, it would feel different.
Oh, totally.
Whereas that polish, and even in something like Pretty Little Lies, where...
Big Little Lies. Sorry.
Pretty Little Liars is the teen mystery show, which is also
Big Little Liars.
Big Little Lies. She has bangs, which in some ways covers the frozen forehead.
Yeah.
And makes her more sympathetic. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does. Well, also, it's like, I think a lot about the way Hollywood has fully embraced body modification to the point where they want you to know it's modification. Like, when Kim Kardashian snatches the waist that much, she wants it to look abnormal, so you know that she could do it.
Yeah.
When these rappers especially get the humongous veneers that don't look real, the point is they don't look real.
Yeah.
And there's something Nicole Kidman does with her face. Like, you see the plastic surgery, and it's almost like she wants you to see it. It's almost like she wants you to know that, like, oh yeah, this is the way that my characters would present themselves and modify themselves IRL.
Yeah. I think it's also she's tall.
She's very tall. And that skin, something about that skin just says, I'm so wealthy, the sun can't find me. Like, I'm so rich.
Yeah, the sun can't find me. Like, this is a woman who always, if she goes out in the sun, there's like one
Umbrella.
of those giant sun hats, you know? Like, it's just like flopping all over the place.
Yeah. But it's like, I think of her body and I think of her face. I live in LA. It's like, it is odd to see a very wealthy woman of a certain age who hasn't had work done.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And that allows her to step in as that character with ease.
Oh, yeah.
Is there someone else that you'd like to see play that wealthy white lady that would be interesting?
I would want to... I keep waiting for, like, Kerry Washington's, like, big second act. She's been doing this thing where she's, like, involved in politics now, and I'm like, sure, fine, but okay. I want her to do all of the rich white lady stuff, but, like, be the black lady in the cast who calls out the racial awkwardness, like Shondaland style. Like, I want Shondaland monologues in these white prestige rich dramas delivered by Kerry Washington while she's married to the hottest white guy.
So you want like a continuation of Scandal that's that's not in a political world.
Yes, but they've now gone to Vermont, and now it's Big Little Lies in Vermont, and it's her and Fitz. And she's like, no one else will speak the truth, but I will. Yeah.
Kerry Washington had some invisible babies. She's very effective at not publicizing her pregnancies or her births.
I didn't know. Oh my God.
Like,
okay.
I'm not talking about like she fake pregnancy. I'm talking about she actually had babies, but like she just wants it to keep them very private.
Good for her.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anyone else that I would be interested in that. Like, is Jennifer Lawrence going to age into this particular type of role? Or is she like too cool girl? I don't know.
I'd expect more. She does this thing where, you know, that energy when OkCupid was ascendant, and like if you were a woman on OkCupid, you had to say that you liked the Boston Red Sox. That's Jennifer Lawrence.
But how does that age? Like how does that?
That last movie she did, I hated it so much. It was just made for men. What was that movie?
Yes.
Where she's just topless the whole time. It was made for men, straight men. Like Nicole Kidman makes shit for women and gay men. Jennifer Lawrence makes content for straight men.
Yeah.
And like, unless that changes, she'll just be doing what she's doing, which is like rom-coms for horny teenagers. Which, fine, girl, make your money.
Okay,
not
we're gonna talk about hair now. So this,
Okay.
we're gonna the delicate territory, but we got so many questions about this that we have to talk about it. This comes from Haley.
Nicole Kidman is objectively one of the most beautiful women in the world. And so I need to know why they keep putting her in these ridiculous wigs. And I'm not even necessarily mad about it, but I'm confused.
So I'm not a good wig spotter.
But with these, it's impossible not to
I
spot.
know, but like Juliana Margulies.
In the undoing, it was so big.
I did not know that Juliana Margulies was wearing a wig in The Good Wife, which is like now one of the most famous, like a very high profile bad wig. Melody even said, like, was there a Nicole Kidman bad wig TikTok that was going around? Like, how does everyone know about this? Or why are we getting so many questions about it? And I mean, one reason why movie stars now wear wigs, especially on television productions, is because it's cheap and it makes consistency between shots very easy.
Oh. Because if you're doing hair every day, that's hours to staff that you're paying.
Yeah, and especially if you have volatile hair in any capacity.
Once that humidity hits, once the curls come out. Yeah. I get that.
And if they're supposedly like they're shooting on the beach and her character has hair that looks like at every hour of the day that she has put in giant hot rollers and let them sit like for many hours.
Yeah.
So that's not going to stay. You would have to spend a lot of time doing that. And also you would have to shoot in much more, I think, sequence, which oftentimes is much less cost effective. And Netflix is...
I get it.
They are cheap.
They're cheap. Yeah. I also think that like the best celebrities become cartoon characters. And like what I mean by that is that they have certain visual cues that you always expect from them, and that as soon as you see it, you know it's them.
Yeah.
And it's something about Nicole Kidman, red curly hair. Oh, it's her. Spot her a mile away. And it's like become this iconic characteristic. You know, she's not always a redhead when she's like in real life. She's been blonde a lot recently.
Yeah.
But I do think that like that curly red hair is like part of her iconography. And she knows that. And so like, of course, in shows like The Undoing, play it up. The show's bad anyway. Play it up.
Okay, so one of her first movies, which is a crazy movie with, let's see, I want to remember the name of it. It's like a thriller on a boat with Billy Zane. It's called Dead Calm.
Okay.
Sam Neill. She's like married to Sam Neill, and Billy Zane comes and like he's a castaway and he boards the boat, and then like they spend the rest of the movie like trying to fight him off. It's really scary.
Okay.
And in that movie, and then
Billy
also
Zane's
in
a great villain. He's a great villain. Wow.
And in the early like Tom Cruise era, she had like aspirational perm, incredible curls. Like, you know, the kind of curls that like went over to one side. Like I think of them similar, like Mariah Carey had similar curls, like this sort of perm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's coming back in style.
I hope so. I love that.
Men are getting perms now. Do you know about this?
What?
Yeah. Like teen boys.
Oh my goodness. You know what? At least they're grooming. Praise be.
But so that to me, I think it depends on where, like how Nicole Kidman imprinted on you in terms of like what she looks like, because she has had this incredibly straight hair that maybe is given some like loose beachy curls to give it some body. But the other thing I'll say is that women, as they age, their hair gets really crazy. Like their hair.
Really?
Women, as they age, their hair thins. It breaks a lot. Like just going through perimenopause and menopause does things to your hair that are not always under your control, even if you have a lot of money. And so maybe it's partly that too. Like if I were a star, I would get so bored with people doing my hair.
It's hours that you don't get back, and it damages your hair. I mean, there's so many Black women, stars of note. They'll talk about, Oh, yeah, I'm always wearing a wig so I can protect my hair
Yep.
and not have that shit fried and dyed and heated every day.
Yeah.
I get it. Protect your
Yeah.
hair. Protect
Yeah.
your hair.
Just put on, like, think how much, because someone can style your wig while you're not wearing your wig.
Exactly. You save so much time. You save so much time.
We're pro wig.
I say this as a bald man. Yeah, like, free yourself.
Yes. Okay. And then our last question. This is super, I love this way of talking about this.
Okay.
So this comes from Elizabeth.
Throughout my life, I have been told that I look like Nicole Kidman. I don't think I will get told that anymore, because despite being 13 years younger than her, I look older than her. I haven't done, and don't think I want to do, Botox or anything besides sunscreen and basic skincare like face wash, lotion, etc., even though I could afford to. How do I deal with this? I honestly would love some non-shaming conversation around what it means that older people don't look old anymore. I was looking at pictures of Audrey Hepburn in her 50s and early 60s recently, and it was so comforting. Do I have to change my expectations forever around what older women will look like? What does it mean that I'm going to get old and they never will?
It means that as long as there have been movie stars and really rich people, they get paid to look better than we do. They get paid to look better than we do. And we don't get to look like them because that's not our job. And we're not paid that way. I used to, in my 20s, get compared, or people would say, you look like this basketball player, that basketball player. And I was like, one, kind of racist. Two, I don't play basketball. And then I got into my 30s and I stopped getting that. And it was just like, okay, fine. Like, I don't keep my body that way. I'm not a basketball player.
Right.
And so it's like, question the question, dear listener. You're saying, how bad should I feel that as I age, I will no longer be compared to Nicole Kidman? I'd say don't feel bad at all.
Yeah.
Not a lot of us look like Nicole Kidman, and that's okay.
I do think this question of, though, like, that we don't have examples, like very visible examples or prominent examples of our most valuable, most prized people who are considered the most beautiful of those people aging.
Yeah.
The people that are often held up as like, oh, look at them, like they aged gracefully. It's like Helen Mirren and Judi Dench. And both of those women already reached the point of people understanding them as beautiful as they are before our current moment of much more aggressive plastic surgery.
Yeah.
And I do think it's worth thinking about, like, what it means that 50 years ago, one of the most beautiful women in the world, Audrey Hepburn, was very visibly aging. Right?
Well, and then like you compare it now to someone like Emma Watson, who is very young and perfect skin. She pushes anti-wrinkle products. She pushes anti-aging products at she's 34 right now. She's been doing it since before then. I mean, this is connected to the Sephora kids who are already thinking about fine lines and wrinkles in their teenage years. The pressure's higher. You're right.
Yeah. And like just this idea that like you should always be maintaining, but that at some point, like there's going to be like the stars stay the same age and you keep getting older. But I don't know. There's also the fact that like there's always a new crop of stars who are our new ideals of beauty and our new ideals of body. And that also makes me feel like, oh, I'm getting older. I think the more interesting question is how do we each individually come to terms with the fact that we do age and our bodies die?
Yeah. Well, and how do we accept the fact that like part of the reason that those really rich and famous people look the way they do is because they sacrifice things that, for instance, I don't want to sacrifice.
Right.
Every famous man now has an incredible 8-pack and humongous arms. And you know what? They work out 4 hours a day and only eat chicken and broccoli. I don't want to fucking do that.
They
don't.
Eat like fish that has been cooked in like Pam.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's like, I want to be healthy, but like I've made peace with the fact that I'll never have abs because I know that like in actuality, abs like that aren't a natural state of being.
Yeah.
It's not natural. So I have to remind myself that like the extreme versions of beauty that celebrities present to us is in fact not natural. Even though they wear it so organically, it's not natural.
Yeah.
Your body aging naturally, that is natural. That is actually the norm, you know? We have to remind ourselves of that.
No, and I think there's a way that we can talk about those choices that stars have made and that other people in our lives who aren't stars have made that doesn't say, oh my gosh, they're so gross. Like, then that's
Just a
often
choice.
women. It's like, oh, they're a monster. Like, there's grotesquerie in some way. And be like, that's a decision that they made.
They're also just like looking for job security. It's part of the job requirement, you know, like they have to look really pretty. So I get it.
I look at Nicole Kidman and I'm like, who and what told her that she couldn't have wrinkles on her forehead to be a beautiful, successful actress? And I think too about the sacrifice that she's made. Like, acting is clearly so important to her, and she has made sacrifices in her instrument, right? Her face is her instrument in its dexterity, its range, in order to look a certain way in a publicity still.
Oh, yeah. I'm also convinced that I'm convinced that so many celebrities, male and female, are always just a little bit hungry. And let me tell you one thing I never want to be: hungry. I'm nibbling all the time. I'm eating all the time. And I will keep my little beer gut. Because you know what? I like food and I like beer.
Yeah.
And you just gotta...
Taylor Swift talks about this a little bit in her documentary Americana, and like how being around models all the time, in some ways she internalized this idea that like, okay, if I want to look like that with my frame, that just being hungry, a little hungry all the time, or actually teaching your body to ignore its hunger cues, right?
Oh my God.
That's what you have to do in order to be successful. Yeah. And now she's like, oh, I like to eat and I like to be strong and I can do this incredible feat of athleticism in my shows, right?
Totally. And my thing now is like, I like to always be a little bit full. That's what I want. Like, I want to always be a little bit full.
To me, there's no better feeling than like a natural hunger cue arriving and then satiating it.
Yeah, buddy.
You're like,
yeah, buddy.
I'm hungry and I listen to my body and now I'm full.
Oh, yeah. I have 2 fruit bowls on my kitchen counter, and I don't believe in having fruit in them because that means fruit flies because I never eat them in enough time. But for a very long time, I had both fruit bowls just full of individually packaged Rice Krispie treats. And do you know what feels good when you're just like, I'm hungry, but not hungry enough?
Good.
A Rice Krispie treat.
So good.
And when I'm feeling frisky, I'll spread some Nutella on the Rice Krispie treat. It's amazing.
It is a perfect food.
Really
sorry,
is.
this is going to sound counterfactual, but I ran the Chicago Marathon a little bit ago, and
congrats.
They had Rice Krispie treats at the end.
Yo, perfect food.
That was like this. I've never been happier in my entire life.
Yes.
What role would you like to see Nicole Kidman in? What type of role moving forward?
I want to see her do a soap opera. Just like go full soap. Like daytime soap. Or like I want her in a white version of like Empire where she's Taraji P. Henson. And it's like a country music family.
Oh, like she would, like in Nashville, she would be like the Connie Britton role in Nashville.
But as crazy as Taraji's character in Empire.
Yeah. What if she was just Taraji in Empire, but the rest of the show was the same?
I would love that so much. I would love that so much.
Just like this incredibly tall white lady.
With what's his face? What's that man's name? The lead. What is his name? Terrence Howard.
Yes,
Terrence Howard.
He's a little shorter, so she would just tower
over him. Oh, I want to see that. I want to see that so badly.
I would like to see her do like a Kelly Reichardt movie, like a very understated, like some of those roles that Michelle Williams takes sometimes, where it's just like, oh, it's me and my dog at a hot springs in Oregon,
and nothing really happens.
Would allow her to give her like a little bit of Just some face acting time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, she's tied to slow cinema. Okay.
Okay.
What's her biggest movies? Kelly Reichardt.
Old Joy.
Oh, Showing Up. That trailer annoyed me because I was like, what happens in this movie? Nothing, it seems.
Nothing happens in these movies. There's also like First Cow. Did you see that? Wendy and Lucy,
No.
Certain Women. Meek's Cut Off is another. But yeah, it's just like very, very slow. And so I think like a movie that's just Nicole Kidman, basically, that would be interesting to me.
Yeah.
And then
What else would I put in
I was
there?
going to say, like, I keep coming up with ideas and I'm like, oh no, she already did that. She's done so much.
She has done so much.
But another, like a kind of like a screwball comedy would be funny. Like her and George Clooney, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Or even her, like, in something resembling Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, Ocean's 8, whatever Oceans, like that. Like, she's the mastermind of the criminal syndicate.
Or she could be like the Matt Damon, who's kind of weird, but like really good at locks.
Yeah.
Like that sort of thing. Like, I want her
that.
to like lean into like supporting character weirdness. That would
Yes.
be, I would like that as well.
I also, what has she done with Steven Soderbergh? I feel like they could make magic.
Yeah, I mean, he loves genre films too, so like they could figure out like, okay, whether it's a heist or like some sort of like a screwball. He can do screwballs pretty well too. Like something like that. That would be really interesting.
Yeah.
Sam.
Okay, Nicole, listen to us. We got you. Listen to us.
I don't know. Wait, she's not going to take our advice because she already has the next 10 years of her career already optioned.
It's all mapped out.
It's
Oh, yeah.
all there.
It's all there. It's
But
all there.
this has been a total pleasure. If people
Always a
want to
pleasure.
find more of you on the internet, where can they find you?
I am at Sam Sanders on Instagram, at Sam Sanders on X, formerly Twitter. I have a TikTok account. I don't know how that works. VibeCheck does post a TikTok, VibeCheck's Pod. And the best way to hear me all the time is to check out my podcast, VibeCheck, every Wednesday. The Sam Sanders Show from KSRW every Friday. You can get both of those wherever you get podcasts. But if you're in LA, you can hear the Sam Sanders Show on Fridays and Saturdays on KSRW. And you can watch it on YouTube, which, let me tell you, when I came into audio 15 years ago, didn't think I'd be saying that. But here we are. Come see me in these fancy sweaters that are going to be a tax write-off on YouTube.
Your shackets. You're going to watch your
My
kindergarten
shackets.
teacher shackets.
That's right. That's right. Come see the shackets.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was delightful.
Thank you so much for listening to the Culture Study Podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We have so many great episodes in the works, and I promise you don't want to miss any of them. If you want to suggest a topic, ask a question about the culture that surrounds you, or submit a question for our subscriber-only advice time segment, check the show notes for a link to our Substack. If you want to support the show and get bonus content, head to culturestudypod.substack.com. It's $5 a month or $50 a year, and you'll get ad-free episodes, an exclusive advice time segment, weekly discussion threads for each episode, and a link to a special Google form so that your questions go to the front of the line. The Culture Study Podcast is produced by me, Anne Helen Peterson, and Melody Rowell. Our music is by Poddington Bear. You can find me on Instagram at Anne Helen Peterson, Melody at Melodious47, and the show at Culture Study Pod. Thank you so much for your support.
I had to look up Far and Away because I thought it was the I thought it was the movie about geese. What's the movie about geese?
Like the documentary?
No, about the hold on. It was like a 90s movie about geese. Fly Away Home.
Oh my God, no.
Similar to what is it? Far and Away.
Far and Away, no.
Fly Away Home.
No.
Potato.